And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling, and what I want to talk to you about today is your daily choice of choosing between being poor, middle class, or rich. That's right. It's a daily choice that you choose every single day, that you actually get up out of bed and then you make the choice. Am I going to be poor, middle class, or rich? Basically, being poor means that you spend more than what you earn. You basically borrow yourself forward in life. And eventually that will catch up with you, whether you like it or not. That's just how life is. If you keep borrowing, eventually you will hit a wall. And that is the point where you will have to change. Or you might be saved by someone and manage to actually change your ways and move up through the ranks. Or you'll end up being poor, helpless, and desperate throughout your entire life if you give up. Which unfortunately is what many people do. But that's so sad, because if you look at the world, there's so much wealth, there's so much money, and there's a lot to go around. And you just have to basically get better. You just have to improve your value to the marketplace, improve your skill sets and your ability to sell that value to other people, and through natural course, you will manage to move up in life. That is a choice, to spend more than what you make. And it's completely unnecessary, and it's not going to take you to the land of your dreams. Now I'm talking specifically about your personal consumption habits, alright? If you're spending in order to invest, if you're investing in business, very often it's different, as long as you know what you're doing. But most people don't know what they're doing, and so they're just speculating and basically gambling. But if you know, the first couple of times it might be gambling because you don't quite know the industry, you don't quite know how businesses in this industry works, but eventually it stops being gambling and speculation. You start understanding who knows what and what is actually correct, what's facts, what's not, and as you go, you learn through failure, and eventually you make it. All right? So that's poverty. We don't want that. So get below your income in terms of your expenses and radically decrease your expenses, right? That's one way of doing it. Number two is middle class. How do you choose to be middle class on a daily basis? Well, it's basically that you choose to not step up as a leader, right? There's two aspects of it. You got one aspect which very often the middle class people spend more than what they earn for a period of time. And that's normally what I see is that's normally when they start out working, they have this luxurious lifestyle because, man, they're making so much money compared to what their expenses are and what they need to survive. But then they get married and they have kids, and very often those kids cost a lot of money. And the rate of how much kids cost, right? They don't cost that much when they're babies, but as they grow older, they start costing a lot more. And if you do not grow your income at the same rate as your kids are growing, you'll eventually get into debt. And debt is the poverty cycle, remember? So you don't want to be in that part. You want to make sure you're financially cleared and in control, and keep that tightness and strict attitude on your finances while you have kids, right? And you got that habit in place before you got kids. But anyway, point is, that's middle class. That's a very important part of being middle class, is that you have a family very often and they need money. So you end up spending all of your time trying to make money for a family that you hardly ever see, right? And you pay for a house that you're barely in, and you pay for a car that you use maybe 2% of the day. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but that's what most middle class people do. And on the other hand, they actually make enough money in order to be comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you end up being in that circle of comfortability, and you don't really want to change, because changing that up is going to require blood, sweat, and tears that most people are not willing to actually do, right? So you've got the comfortability, and yet at the same time the poverty one, and eventually the middle class shrinks. Have you heard about that? Poor, middle class, and the rich, and yet there's suddenly a bigger gap between the poor and the rich, and that's basically the middle class shrinking, because they're not coming on board with what the future has in store for the world. And then finally, you have the choice of being rich on a daily basis. What does that mean? It basically means that you wake up fired up about life, you've got purpose, you've got vision, you know where you're going, and you are focused on selling that vision to other people. One, to your team, and number two, to your potential buyers, the people who have been looking for what you're trying to sell them, and you work together as a group, as a team, in order to make everyone's dreams come true. That is a choice that you make every single day that you wake up, and it's a beautiful choice, and it's the choice that will make you rich. And the way to do it, as I've spoken about before, is to pay yourself first, is to be focused on your future self, where you will have a future now, just as you're having it now, right now, watching this video. In the future, you're going to have a future now, where you will have emotions, and hopefully those emotions are feelings of joy, happiness, excitement, gratitude, and just for setting up your life the way that you did in the past. That's a rich life. And you pay yourself first by dedicating a specific amount or increasing that specific amount every single month in a savings bucket and in an investment bucket. You've got to pay yourself first. And I recommend that you go through the same videos again and again of what I've spoken about that in the past. They're named Pay Yourself First. And focus on it and make a better future. This is the Men of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling, and I'll see you again tomorrow.